Let's look at lesson 3, worshiping God and the Lamb. In some senses, this is the most important section of Revelation. The first 3 chapters took place on earth, kind of introducing John and the 7 churches, but now the actual apocalyptic journey begins. Now John is invited up to heaven, and he journeys up to God's throne room. Now, a couple of things about this. Remember, don't take this imagery literally. We don't live in a sort of multi-storied universe where heaven is up. But this idea of going to heaven is then to give God sort of bird's eye vision of how our world is meant to be. So the throne of God is the image that is so central in this section. I think because John is teaching us not to worship the Roman Empire, not to worship anything else, but to worship God alone. So when he gets up to that throne room scene, that's what he sees going on, is worship. It's this amazing scene, this kind of cacophony of animals, the living creatures, the elders, which is important for you Presbyterians. The elders word in Greek is presbyter, and that came to be in the first century the word for a Christian pastor as well. So you are the Presbyterians. But around the throne of God are these sort of concentric circles of worshipers, casting their crowns before the throne and praising God and singing these great hymns. And I think hymns are one of the best ways to enter into Revelation. You might think you don't know a lot about the book, but I'm sure that you know many hymns that are based on the book of Revelation. So take time to sing some of those. There are great hymns that take their imagery. The Alpha and Omega comes up in many different Christian hymns in our tradition. So worship is what this vision is all about, to teach us who is the ultimate one in charge of our world. Who do we owe allegiance to? Who should be praised and worshiped? It's not the Roman Empire, it's God, John is telling his churches. And then in chapter 5, this very important plot development happens. And that is, John sees that God, who is sitting on the throne, is holding a scroll, and no one is worthy to open the scroll. So John says he weeps that no one is found worthy. But then he hears a voice telling him, don't weep, because the Lamb is worthy. And let me just read this. I think this is a key section. Weep not, for lo, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has conquered, so he can open the scroll and its 7 seals. And between the throne and the 4 living creatures and among the elders, I saw a Lamb standing. This is probably the biggest surprise in the whole book of Revelation, because you're expecting a lion. You're set up to expect a lion. And that would be typical of apocalypses. In some of the other apocalypses from the ancient world, one that I referred to a couple times is 2nd Esdras, for example. If you've got a copy of the Apocrypha, you can find that. In that book, there's an eagle who represents the Roman Empire, and he has talons and claws. There's lions, bears, all kinds of scary animals that do all kinds of powerful and mighty things. But Revelation is the only apocalypse we know of that has a lamb as its main character. And I think it's a complete surprise for readers of this book to introduce Jesus as a lamb. And it's not even just the regular Greek word for lamb, amnos, that you find in the Gospel of John, for example, when John the Baptist says, behold the Lamb of God. This is like the diminutive form of it. So it's like a little lamb, a lammy, or a lambkin. Fluffy is one pastor calls him. It's an amazing vision of Jesus, completely unexpected. And that then becomes the central image of Jesus that will carry through the entire book of Revelation. There's 26 more references, I think it is, to Jesus as a lamb. John really wants us to see Jesus in this form. And why is that? I mean, what does that mean for us? Well, let me just say a couple things. Again, it's a reminder to not take the images of Revelation literally, because of Jesus, of course, was not a sheep. And artists, if they try to depict Jesus as a sheep, really run into trouble. There's one famous tapestry, for example, from the Middle Ages of the marriage of the Lamb, which has a woman getting married to a sheep, which is a very strange image. But then we have to ask, what is it we love about Jesus as a lamb? Why does this image speak to us so much? And certainly it goes back to the Old Testament, to the notion of sacrifice, the one who gives his life for us in Isaiah. And it's a very, very powerful image from the Exodus story as well, the blood of the lamb, which then saves the Israelites. And I think also it's to teach us this different way of conquering, because it does say this one has conquered, the Lion of the tribe of Judah has conquered, and then he sees a lamb. So Jesus is teaching us that true conquering, true victory happens not through Roman militaristic, violent conquering, even though that's what people were taught to think by Rome, is that conquest and domination are the most powerful forces in the world. John is saying no. He's saying that this lamb power vision, a different kind of power, is stronger than anything that the Roman Empire can serve up. And he wants us to begin to experience God not in forms of domination and conquest, but rather as this vulnerable lamb who conquers not by killing people, but by giving his life, by being killed. So that's why the lamb looks as though he's been slain. It is Jesus who's been crucified, but he's now standing. And that means he's resurrected. And it's that image of Jesus who conquers through this nonviolent, self-giving love that is the Jesus that we are to follow through the entire book of Revelation. And that's the core image for the Christian community, for these churches. John is teaching them about lamb power and what that's going to look like in their lives as they follow Jesus.